everyone is welcome. And if anybody wants to move down, or if anybody has any questions that they want to ask along the way, please do feel free, put up your hands. And if I don't notice you, wave your arm around and I'll find you. Okay. So I'm here really to talk to you about medicine, first of all, and then to talk to you about UCD medicine. And I hope by the time you finish, I'm very much ably aided by one of our young medical students here, Ned Quirk. Ned is going to come in and tell you all the truth of everything when I finish. But Ned is one of our final year medicine students. So Ned will be a doctor in June. There you go. Okay. So Ned once sat where you were, and once sat in these rooms for his basic lectures. And as I say, from our perspective, it's lovely to see so many young people who are interested in medicine as a career. So I think the why medicine is an important question. And it gives me the opportunity to tell you that I chose medicine a million years ago. And I chose it for no good reason, really, other than perhaps I'd come across some really nice doctors in various aspects of my life along the way. My own inspiration, I guess, didn't get in any way diluted by the fact that medicine is quite tough. But I think it's really important to say that it's a career choice. It's not just a program, it's a career choice. It's not like other degrees where you might do them and then go off and do something else. If you choose medicine, you're committing to a career, and it's a career after more than 30 years of practice. I sound like old Mr. Brennan here, but after more than 30 years of medical practice, it's a career choice that I'm grateful I made, and one that I've never for a single instant regretted. And I'm not sure there's many careers that people would genuinely say that about. Some people are inspired. They see role models. They see people that they want to be. Some people see medicine and see all the different things that you can do at the end. And I suppose that's one thing I want to say to all of you as young people, is that there is no kind of single doctor. There are so many different types of doctors that you can be. You can be a doctor who deals with people every day as a general practitioner, who deals with families over a lifetime. You can be a doctor who specializes in pathology and the microscopic diagnosis of cancer. There are so many different opportunities for doctors once you complete your degree. It's also a degree that's really very portable. And I guess anyone who listens to the news will be aware that we have lots of doctors who go to Australia after they qualify, and that's a particular issue for the health service, but they come back. And I think one of the beauties of medicine is that you can travel and you can work and you can experience other cultures, and you can bring back the skills that you learn. And in fact, that's kind of the model of our training, is that you bring back what you learn and you use it for the benefit of the communities that you serve when you practice as a doctor. The other thing that appeals to people, and I think this is important because medicine is very much, it is really a profession. And what that means is that if you've got core values that are similar to those of, the sorts of things that underpin a doctor. So if you really want to help people, and I know people say, oh, it sounds a little bit dated or a little bit twee, but you actually do have to want to help people. You have to be motivated by the fact that you want to help people. And you have to be prepared to do that even when the going gets tough. You also have to be honest, and you have to be, to some extent, altruistic at times. And the other thing you have to be is committed. All right. So those are things that are really kind of, those values underpin what we do. And they're the sorts of things that if they speak to you, if that's the sort of person that you are, that you feel that you are, and that you will continue to be, then medicine is absolutely a really wonderful career for you, because it allows you to develop those and to express all of those. Medicine is also both a degree and a career that will challenge you. So if you're the sort of person that actually likes to get up in the morning and think, I'm not entirely sure what today is going to bring, I'm not entirely sure who I'm going to meet or what I'm going to be called on to do, then medicine is absolutely for you, because there are no 2 days in medicine, even, as I say, 30 years in practice, there are no 2 days that are the same. And each day throws up different challenges and different things to keep that fire going, to keep your passion for medicine going. And then, as I say, really that bottom line, which is that you genuinely make a difference to people. What I say to the medical students is that you have the opportunity to really not just transform somebody's day, but actually to transform their quality of life and to transform their experience of life and for that of their friends and their families. So you really have the power as a doctor, if you use it correctly, obviously, but you really have the power as a doctor to make a big change, to transform lives. And that's something that is phenomenally rewarding day after day after day. Another reason might be that you've been inspired by some of our UCD medicine students. And for this, I apologize to Ned, because Ned was the auditor of MedSoc here last year. And I went straight to their Facebook page and I stole all their pictures. So I have to apologize in advance. I tend not to go on the medical student websites, but for this one, I stole some. These are our medical students who've been out and about raising money for charities. And over the years, they've raised somewhere between 30 and 45,000 euros in one day for the charities of their choice. If you come across them, they're a wonderful bunch of young people, and some of you may have friends, you may have other family members, and they themselves, for me, are inspiring and keep me also doing what I do. I just want to take a little left turn for anyone who maybe needs some more information about medicine. I'm not going to tell you everything about it. I'm not going to go into all the career structures and all the career opportunities, but I do want to signpost for you some sources of information. So the Medical Council is the regulator of medical doctors, and their website, and again, just to say, for any of these slides that have websites on them, I've put them all on the very last slide. If anybody wants to take a picture, then you can have them all. So they will come up at the end. But the Medical Council has a really helpful website for people who want to be a doctor. And you can go in there and you can click around and you can click on the links that tell you what sorts of doctors you can be and the different pathways to that. And it tells you a little bit about medical training after you get your degree as well. I assume that there's no one in this room at this stage that isn't aware of CAO, but just to say for this year, for anybody who's applying this year, obviously CAO has opened, and CAO, if you haven't seen it yet, has a particular tab on medicine for medicine, okay, because it is slightly different because there is the HPAT, more of which in a second. But just to say that this little booklet here on the right side, as you look at it, that's a downloadable little brochure. I've taken some information from it, but again, it's something you can go home, you can download and you can read at your leisure. It's got all kind of key dates and important information if that hasn't already been highlighted to you in your schools. The information that CAO publishes goes all the way in to tell you what the overall total points were for each of the medical programs for last year. So this data is the current data that's in that little brochure and that's on the website. And it also tells you for each of those what the absolute or what the basic requirements are to get into the program. These are not what will get you in, because I think everyone here probably knows medicine's pretty competitive, but this is what you need to get in. So again, just to say that for UCD, minimum entry requirements are there: English, Irish, third language, maths, and then a science. All right, so one of biology, chemistry, physics with chemistry, or agricultural science. And I would just like to say that we're probably one of the, I hate to say one of the better schools, maybe one of the more suitable medical schools for people who maybe don't have the full range of sciences, because as you'll come to see a little bit later on, we have our first year, which is an introduction, covers really all of the basic sciences that you need. So for anybody who's worried that they might fall behind in another program because they maybe don't have biology or chemistry or physics, we do all of those in our first year here. So it means that everybody, by the time you get to the end of first year, everybody's on the same level playing field to move ahead. That number, scary looking number there, is 743 points. So that's the number of points that was required to get into medicine in UCD this year. Okay. That number, as I say, looks very high. And for those of you who wonder how you get 743 points when the max is 625, I'll just tell you a little bit about the HPAT and how it's used. And again, I would direct you, and I'll just say at this point, I'll direct you to the HSC or to the HSC, to the HPAT website. But we are obviously completely separate to HPAT, and I don't have any insights or advice on the HPAT itself, other than to say it is actually a part of the applications process, as you know. So this sort of funny looking diagram here, what this shows you is down this side, if you can see the arrow. So down this side, this would be your potential leaving cert points. Okay, so you can look at this and see the range of leaving cert points that you might get. Going across this way, these are the HPAT scores, bearing in mind that they're out of a maximum of 300. And the line that I've got going up the middle here that I've drawn on to try and help you a little bit is just to show you that everything to the right of this line, everything in this range in here, would have got you in to UCD Medicine in 2022. So what does that actually mean? Why am I even showing you this? So basically, if you get 625 points in the Leaving Cert, that means you get with moderated. Are you aware of moderated points? Do you know what that means? Yeah. So for moderated points, that gives you 565. So that means that the most points you can get for your 625 is 565. And that means if you get 565, you need to get into this square here, which means that you need 180 in HPAT. Okay. So you can kind of see how this works. The better you do in your leaving, the less well you need to do in the HPAT. But I think, and the HPAT gets a very bad press, and I appreciate that. There's lots of people who don't value it. But where I think it does have a value is that if you've got a, so let's say 553 would be 6 H2s. So let's say you're down in this range somewhere down here. So you're not up there with the 6 H2s, you're slightly below that. It gives you the opportunity to come into medicine if you get a HPAT score of 220. So what it does actually is it means that not everybody coming into medicine has to get maximum points. And for that alone, there is a value in managing to spread that points base. So again, I just show you that so that you can get an idea how it works. I'm not here to talk about the HPAT, but if you do want, these are just the points for each of the medical schools for last year, and you can see them there, 736 to 745. So obviously that line that I've drawn will shift for different medical schools, and you can make your choices based on where you think or where you hope you might get. And again, HPAT Ireland, they update their website every year. I would recommend, even if you know people who've done it, if you've had brothers or sisters do it, or even friends, just do go in and take a look and see, because every now and then they tweak things a little bit. There might be a change to the times or something else. So just go in and have a look. And again, the dates I've just put up there so that you know when they are. Obviously, you want to get your application in before the closing date of the 20th of January. After that, they charge a little bit of a fee for late applications. So it's worth your while getting all of that done before the 20th of January. And as I say, I will park the HPAT there, all right? I hope I've shown you that there may be, even for those who dislike it a lot, that there may be a benefit to it in terms of allowing a greater range of leaving cert points. For other sources of information, UCD website is really fantastic. So I'd encourage anybody to go into the UCD website and have a look. Again, I'll put this link up. They have the registry piece of the website has all the information. So if you're not sure about, do you need Irish? Do you need French? Do you need what do you need? That's all in there, and that's all published. I want to say a special word to anyone who feels like they're a trailblazer. And by that, I mean anybody who is here tonight, or anybody who's going to apply, who is doing it as perhaps the first person in their family to apply to medicine, or the first person in their family to apply to university. UCD has a very proactive policy of inclusion, and in fact we have places reserved for students coming in through our access routes in the medicine programs. So I really want to say a special shout out to anyone who feels that they might be in that group of people, and to encourage you to really to go for it and to come and join us on our programs. Again, there's another few sort of areas. If you're one of those students who's going to be applying through an access route, again, don't miss there's an application information session, which is on Saturday, the 14th of January. Okay, so these are all dates that might be helpful to you, where you can get even more information. And as I say, more information on the UCD website. ALL is what we call access and lifelong learning. And you can go in, you just go in and put in UCD access, and it'll bring you to the web page and give you all of the information you need. So as I say, we're looking for trailblazers, and we really welcome all students who want to come in, and particularly those without that history. So probably the bit that you came here for, if you know all the rest of it already, is why would you come to us? Well, what is really nice on these occasions is when you can say you've walked through our fantastically gorgeous campus and you've seen it, but it's kind of dark and wet out there. So I would imagine most people ran through. You are, though, in one of our state-of-the-art lecture theatres. And again, this purpose-built building, although you'll notice it was a little bit drafty outside, is in fact really hugely beneficial to us during the COVID period. Particularly, we had big facilities. Very often you'll hear there's an air conditioning and air exchange machine at the back of this room. So we had wonderful facilities, and we could keep all of our teaching going on campus, and we were able to keep students in. We brought students back earlier than some other universities, which was a wonderful, really just a lovely time last year when all of our students came back. The medicine programs are based in this building, and I'll tell you a little bit in a second where you go when you finish here. You'll get lots of information tonight, but if there's one thing I would say to you, you might remember when you're filling in your CAO forms, one thing that UCD Medicine prides itself on, those are our people, our places, and our programs. And you mightn't, when you're thinking about what you're going to do, you might think of all of those things as being important, but actually they really are. Okay, it's really important that you've got good people teaching you, that you've got good locations, including hospitals, in which to learn, and that the actual program, the meat and drink of what you're going to do, is in fact to a very high standard. So I'm going to start just very briefly by talking about our people. You'll see there's some numbers at the bottom of the page. The picture that you can see is a picture of what we call our white coat ceremony. And that happens at the end of the 4th year of the undergraduate program. And it marks the transition leaving Belfield and going into hospitals. And it's a ceremonial time, really. It's a time when we all meet together. You can see faculty there in their academic gowns on the stage, and all of our students having been presented with their white coat and putting on their white coat as a symbol of those things that I talked about at the start, that professionalism, that sense of being a professional and going out to start to learn in a setting where actually it's a workplace and it's where people come because they're sick. So it's really important that our students go out and they appreciate and that they respect all of those things. And this picture this photograph is just a picture from our last white coat ceremony. Anybody, if you want to come in, do you want to come in and sit down, grab a seat? Because there's lots down here, trust me, you're more than welcome if you want to. And again, just to say, I mentioned the importance of our people, and I'm not going to read out all the numbers, but it is important for you to know that there are a lot of us, and we are very well qualified and very experienced, all right? And those are really important things when it comes to choosing a medical school. You'll see here there's 220 academic faculty. Those are people who just do teaching and research in the university, and 760 clinical faculty. So clinical faculty are those whose primary role in the healthcare system is to deliver care. All right, so they're GPs or they are hospital consultants. They're based all over the country, and they also serve on our faculty and they teach our medical students. You can see again, we've got, in addition to that, we've more than 1,500 additional people who come and help us out. And those are people who come on what we call a sessional basis. So they may teach for a term, or they may teach every Friday, they may teach whenever. But we are a big faculty. We have lots of people to teach our medical students, and that is important. I'd also hope that you might have a little look at these. These are from various events that we've had around. Most of them are probably pre-COVID, and some of them might be more recent. You'll see in the centre there leading the academic parade, you'll see our Dean, Professor Keane. And around you'll see different types of events. You might even recognise this lecture theatre actually from the picture in the bottom right. But these are our faculty and our students, and we are a happy family, a happy community. We're also blessed in that we have teachers who are extraordinarily good teachers. These are our university awardees for their teaching excellence last year. And at the bottom is Dr. Tom Flanagan, who teaches neuroanatomy, which is as difficult as it sounds, as difficult as it is to say. And he won a major international award for his teaching, which is 21 international universities. And he won the overall award presented in Sydney earlier this year for his teaching of neuroanatomy. And this is how he teaches neuroanatomy. He does it with some digital interactive games, ways of showing you how the pathways between the eye and the brain influence perception and vision. Oh, no, that's fine.
Oh, that's yours. Sorry.
That's Tom's award-winning. This is Tom's award-winning teaching. So this is Tom's award-winning teaching, and I have to say, as an older person, I look at it and I think, gosh, I'm not so sure. But it's an immersive game-based way of teaching what is actually quite difficult. Oops, I clicked off this now. Okay. Also, again, important to say that you want to be taught by people who are also at the forefront of research. And you want to be taught, if you're coming to do medicine, you want to be taught by people who are really pushing the boundaries of science and pushing the boundaries of clinical research. And up there, it's just a selection of some of the research papers and some of the effort that's been made by UCD faculty. A lot of it relates to COVID. We had particularly a very powerful faculty response to COVID, and we delivered a major international trial on COVID survival in ICU from our St. Vincent's intensive care unit, and that was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which would be one of the most prestigious journals to be published in. At the bottom, what you can see down here is some of our unusual approaches, innovative approaches. And this is Professor Cahill, our professor of surgery, who's pioneered new ways of dealing with cancer surgery, new ways of ensuring that when a surgeon goes in to remove a cancerous tumor, that you remove all of it and that you don't leave some of it behind you. So we have lots of really invigorated, very top of their field individuals teaching you guys as students. And yet they don't teach you from afar, they teach you from here to here and sometimes even around a bedside. So you're up close and personal with people who are genuine leaders in their fields. Again, with a nod to our students, I do wish, every time I put up this slide, I kind of wish I was a student again, but the students, and Ned will speak to this, but there's so many opportunities for students here to get involved and to be engaged. We organize lots of, there's lots of academic events. You can see there, some of these are teaching sessions, particularly here. You can see this is a teaching session in the anatomy library. And down here, you can see obviously happy students having finished and having graduated. But these are all student-led events, student events that we've had these are all as part of the program. So I think Ned might show you some of the more social events, but these are all things that happen as part of your program that we deliver. Again, this is where I did steal from the Facebook page, but just to say that MedSoc, which is the Medical Student Society, keeps winning Society of the Year every year. I think Ned guided them to another record success last year. They are the most dynamic, probably the most fun student society on the whole of the campus. And as I say, Ned takes responsibility for that award. But again, it is really important for medical students. People hear a lot of things about medical students. You don't get time to do anything. You work really hard and you do stuff. But actually, it's also lots of fun. And MedSoc particularly, make sure it's lots of fun. And make sure that even though this is a kind of big campus and it's a big school, that people get to know each other and that they get to mix. And as I say, I put these up, I get a little bit jelly. Very briefly then, I just want to tell you about our places. You're here, all right? I don't need to show you videos. We're not, for anybody online or watching a recording, and I apologize that you're not here. But these buildings, as I say, are purpose-built. The facilities are wonderful. And those of us who work here are very lucky to do so. We have an anatomy dissection lab, which is the old style, traditional way of learning anatomy. We have seminar rooms. We have a big modern library. It's just behind you outside the back doors there. And of course, we have access literally 100 meters across there. You've got a 50-meter swimming pool. You've got, I walked through there half an hour ago. You've got the there's a debating chamber, there's a cinema, there's a student radio station. It's a wonderful end of campus to be in. It's very vibrant and there's lots happening. When you do leave Belfield, and I would say this is probably one of the things that you might not think of, but actually one of our real strengths, one of the things we're most proud of, is our association with the two major teaching hospitals, the Mater, which is in Dublin's north side, which is where I work, and St. Vincent's Hospital, which is just down the road. And the Mater and St. Vincent's are genuine centres of teaching excellence. They are genuine centres of community, learning medicine as a community. You join junior doctors who are 2 or 3 years post-qualification, who are doctors in training. You join older relics like myself. And we all engage in teaching meetings, we engage in journal clubs, we teach one another. And there's a really wonderful spirit, a community of learning spirit that permeates our two big teaching hospitals. And, you know, I've worked in lots of hospitals. I won't say anymore. I've worked in the UK and I've worked in Dublin, but we have a particularly welcoming and supportive environment for learning. And we are blessed actually with patients who really buy into the ethos of a teaching hospital. And I say this every year and I've yet to have to correct it, but I've never been in a situation where a patient says, no, you can't have students around the bedside. I don't want students involved in my care. Our patients are wonderful, and they buy into students. They usually, when I leave the room, they usually tell the students stories about me. I wish they didn't, but they are wonderful learning environments for you guys. We have more than Vincent's and the Mater. We extend all the way across the country, really, and we have 25 acute, general and specialist hospitals. So by specialist, I mean places like Holles Street, where they specialise in women's medicine, obstetrics, the National Orthopaedic Hospital in Kappa. And then we have centres of excellence and national centres in both the Mater and Vincent's. So where I work, we have the National Heart and Lung Transplant Centre. And if you're a medical student, you'll be attached or maybe attached to the Heart and Lung Transplant team. And we have the National Trauma Centre coming to the Mater very shortly. We also have more than 150 general practices. So there is a point in the curriculum when you go to general practices, and that can be anywhere across the country. And again, we have a big, vibrant network of general practitioners engaged in our training. These are some of our facilities. We've invested in our student facilities so that even though you're in a hospital, you have reasonably nice places to hang out. This is the student lounge down in St. Vincent's. And this is the equivalent over in the Mater. And here you'll see this is our surgical simulated laboratory. That's our professor of surgery there with, I should point out that this is not a real person, just in case anybody's concerned. But you can see these are simulated surgeries, and this is a mocked up theatre. So our students get to go in and learn in a mocked up theatre. And then again, you can see we've got teaching facilities. Table tennis table is obviously a further asset, and one that we were delighted to find a common room big enough in the Mater to house. And then the last thing I want to say really, or the last piece I want to cover, is about our programs. So we've talked about who we are and where you would train. We have an undergraduate program structure that is 6 years. Obviously, other programs, I think we're the only program left in the country that's 6 years. I teach first years. I think there's a real benefit to having a first year to settle into college. It's not overly demanding. And as I say, for anyone who feels that maybe they don't have the basics of physics or chemistry or biology, we cover all of those so that everybody gets to catch up. Our academic stages don't quite follow our years, but broadly speaking, the first year is the basics. And then in years 2, 3, in the first half of the fourth year, you do the basic, what we call biomedical sciences. And I'll speak to those in a second. After that, we do what we call our own TY here. So this is our transition phase, where you transition from being in Belfield and sitting in lecture theatres to actually putting on the white coat and doing ward rounds and learning in the hospitals or in general practices. And that's followed by where Ned is, which is 2 years of what we call immersive clinical training. In other words, you literally join medical teams, surgical teams, pediatric teams, and you learn very much I won't say on the job because you're not working, but you learn very much as part of the teams as they look after patients. So it's as the doctors, myself included, as we're doing our ward rounds, as we're doing our outpatients, we're also teaching our students as part of that. And we finish up with a 10-week module, which gets people ready to practice medicine, because that's the other thing. This isn't a degree where at the end of it, you just have a piece of paper. You actually go out and you look after people and you practice medicine as an intern. One thing that I just think is important to say is that we teach in modules, and there's a few things that are helpful about that. The first is that in UCD, you get choice. So within the degree program itself, there are 30 credits where you can choose 30, 20, 30, it might be 20, but no, it is 30. You have 30 credits, which is usually 5 credit modules, where you get to choose modules from anywhere across the campus. All right. So if you're someone who wants to be a doctor, but you also like French, or you also like music, or you kind of think you might like architecture, you can do a module in those. And so far as it fits into your timetable, you can do a module in those. You can do one every trimester from the second half of your first year all the way through until the transition phase. So it gives you the opportunity to meet people outside medicine and to kind of not forget that there can be more to life than the medical subjects as well. And I think it's a huge advantage. I never had anything like that, and I think I really would have enjoyed it. The other thing to say is that the modular structure means that when you finish modules, you do your assessments. And you know, everybody talks about medicine's pressurized and it's tough, but one of the advantages we have here is that by the time you get to Ned's stage, you have over half of your degree credits already in the bag. So you're not faced with a big bang, all or nothing exam. It's never a case of your entire future rests on 1 day or 2 days performance. It is really a case of you work hard all the way through, you bag your credits, you get your GPA. And by the time you come to your final exam, it only counts for about 15% of your actual degree award. So that means that you don't get hit with these really serious pressures. And I think that's important for people to know. Very briefly, stage 1, these are 2 little screen grabs from presentations that I've had. I teach a first year module. And as I say, it's mainly, we do physics, chemistry, biology, but I do a module called Patients, Doctors and Healthcare. And what we do is we look at how health information is communicated to the public, and the students do a little project on a news story, and then they do the research behind it, and then they rewrite the news story as to how it should have been. And these are just some of the examples of the presentations that we've had in the last couple of weeks. Stage 2 then, as I've said, these are the subjects, the biomedical sciences. So these are anatomy, physiology, microbiology, pharmacology, pathology. And broadly speaking, we start with telling everyone how the healthy body is structured and functions. And then we move into what happens in disease states, what happens when things go wrong. And then we also learn about pharmacology, which is about how to treat illness and medication use, etc. So we go from the, as I say, the normal, the healthy functioning into disease states and then into treatments. Alongside these, we have opportunities for students to do research. Okay, so if you're someone who's always wanted to work alongside one of these world-class researchers, you get the chance to do that. And we have a lovely student award competition where students do summer research projects for 6 weeks. They work with some of the researchers that I've spoken about, and then they come and they present either posters. You can see here the poster presentations, and you can see our friendly judging panel from faculty. And there is an award made every year for the best research done by a student. And you can do that anytime from second year onwards. Then we have the bit where you start to get ready to go to hospitals, and that's where we teach you in our purpose-built clinical skills labs. They're upstairs here. Again, one of our assets is what we call a patient educator program. In 2009, myself and the clinical skills team started recruiting real patients from charities across the town, people who wanted to get involved in educating students. And they come in off their own bat and of their own free volition to give up their time to be with our students in small groups, so that you get the chance to make mistakes and you get the chance to maybe I won't say make a fool of yourself, but you get a chance not to feel under the spotlight. You're not dealing with someone who's in a real patient consultation. You're up here with people who've been actually teaching our students for 12 to 14 years as patients. And again, this is about getting ready to go to hospitals. And then round about just before Easter in fourth year, we let everyone off to what we call the motherships, to mater of infants to start with. And that's really your first introduction to learning in a clinical site and learning on the job. And then that's followed by the kind of the big meat, all right, the big meaty things that we do, the big subjects of medicine. So medicine, it can be difficult to understand the difference between medicine and surgery, but basically I'm a physician. I do medicine. I'm a rheumatologist. I don't do any operations. Surgeons they're the people that do operations if there's surgery required. The rest of us do things with medications and other types of approaches. Obstetrics, gynecology, psychiatry, and general practice are also in this stage. And we also have forensic medicine, legal medicine, and population health. And I used to have to tell people what public health and population health were, but I think post-COVID, most people are aware now of what that involves. Again, during these years, you've got opportunities to spread your wings. The medical school funds some scholarship opportunities, so you can travel. You can also go off your own bat. You can make arrangements yourselves. And students, we have 6 weeks in the program where we really encourage students to travel. Okay, we really encourage you to go and travel and go and learn medicine somewhere else, and again, bring back your experiences. Also, a little shout out to the medical students overseas relief group. These are students who organise electives in developing countries, who raise money and who go and give back even at this stage of their education. So we're coming to the end of the program journey. At the very end, we make sure that you're ready to be a doctor, because that's what all of this is about. And the last piece is what we call our professional completion module. One of the things we do here in UCD is we have all our students prepare for what's called the prescribing safety assessment. That might sound like just another exam, but it's effectively a very important certificate that you can get that will make you eligible to work in other countries as well, because it certifies you as someone who is competent at prescribing medications safely. We also train you up in basic life support, CPR, so that you're ready for that. And as I say, at the very end of it all, we have graduation and the celebrations that go with that. I'm just going to pull up this one piece about the intern training network, because when you finish, you do a further year of training. And all I want to say about the intern training network is that our network, the UCD Hospital Network, tends to be the most popular. You can apply from any medical school in Ireland to come to the UCD Intern Training Network. It's based out of the same hospitals that our students learn in. But it tends to be and has historically been one of the most popular. And I suppose I only say that because when you're giving medical graduates a choice of where to come, it's nice to know that they choose us and they want to come and work with us. Again, finally, and importantly, I think to state, it's not possible to be a young person or to be around young people and be responsible for and alongside young people and not be aware of mental health problems and the mental health problems that are well described amongst young people now, and the difficulties that people can face. We have a very, very strong student support system here. We have multiple different sources of support for our students, and we have a very active open door policy. I don't like to say my door is open to any student, Ned. I don't know, Ned, if you think that's, but I do teach first years, and one of the reasons I teach first years is so that they know me, so that if they do have run into problems or there's something that they need to come and talk about, or they need me to direct them somewhere, they know me and hopefully they trust me in that regard. And we have a wonderful team of student advisors. We have peer mentors from the year above, and then we have a program team that is a team that's helped us organize tonight. And they're the team that also supports students when they come into the program. It is really important that you feel supported when you're doing medicine. And it's really important that you feel part of that bigger family. And we really do try and make sure that that's the case. So that's me. I'm very happy to take questions. Somebody's probably going to tell me I'm over time. I think I'm bang on time, actually. Am I bang on time? I'm not often bang on time, but I'm bang on time. Delighted. So we do have, if anybody, I don't know, do you want to take questions at the end, Jean, or leave the questions to the end? So maybe if you want to write them down or type them into your phone or whatever, I'm not going anywhere, so you can ask me when I come back. And as I say, I'm going to hand over to Ned. Ned Quirk. Ned is one of our final years. Ned has an exam tomorrow, so I think actually he deserves special. He came out, we pulled him out of the library to come and talk to you. So I think special thank you to Ned for taking time out of his study. And if I have to write you a note to say where you were, Ned, that's fine too. Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you. Those are, just to say, those are the websites if anybody wants to take a picture. And otherwise, I can put them back up at the end if you want them.
We let all those pictures happen. Thanks very much, Professor Donnelly. Everybody got their picture? Nearly, almost. Okay, that's it. Perfect. So my name's Ned. I'm one of the final year medical students here. So they've asked me to come and talk a little bit about what it's actually like to be a medical student at UCD. And it's quite funny because Professor Donnelly and I did not collude, but we have hit pretty much exactly the same points all the way through. So it's going to be a bit of a repeat, but I think that has to be a good thing. So first of all, I know Professor Donnelly touched on this, but I do have one thing to add on it, just to mention about getting to medicine. First of all, it's definitely the hardest part, and that is true. You know, it's a cliche, but it's definitely the truth. Once you get here, it's okay, but that tends to be the worst. As Professor Donnelly mentioned, it's 743 points last year. And how do you get that? Well, every 5 points over 550, just if you're applying to medicine, is equal to 1 point. So if you get 625, that's 565. And I know Professor Donnelly mentioned that. But just in terms of the HPAT, for anyone that's not aware, the HPAT isn't marked like your leaving cert. It's marked on a centile base, which means that you're compared to everyone else. So your score at the end, you get a centile. So if you get 10th centile, it means you did better than 10% of people. If you get the 50th centile, it means you did better than 50% of people. The 100th means you're the best. So just to give you a bit of a sense of like how the points distribute, because they say that the HPAT is worth up to 300 points, but it's a bit skewed in the sense, just for example, when I sat mine, I got the 90th centile, but I only got 180 points. So you'd think maybe with 90th, you'd be doing much better than that in terms of out of the 300, but it's actually it's skewed very much towards the center. So just keep that in mind when you're going through it. But that's all I really have to say about that. Some of the common misconceptions people think of when they think about medical students and studying medicine is that we just spend all day studying, we have no time to do anything else, there's no social life, and that it's a very competitive environment. I'm told all those things come after you graduate, but I've yet to experience it. Certainly not been my experience here. Once you're studying here, as Professor Donnelly mentioned all this, it's 3.5 years preclinical, 2.5 years clinical. Your first year is just the basic sciences, which is, a really, really good opportunity to kind of get yourself centered. And I know Professor Donnelly's sense of it was if you only did one science, it's great to kind of get you grounded in the other ones. Well, I did all three sciences, and it meant that I had a fantastic first year because it was basically just revising what we'd done in school. So it's a really, really nice time to settle in and to kind of get to know what college life is like, especially for medicine, because it's so long, and it is really a career of lifelong learning, as they say. So it's nice to have that and to get to know your class really well. Years 2 and 3, how stuff works, which we call anatomy and physiology, and then 3 and 4, how things go wrong, pathology, and then 5 and 6 is the clinical bit. I thought I'd throw this up because I remember being confused about this when I was a student in school. There are 2 medical programs here in UCD. There's the one that you guys are hopefully all interested in, which is the undergraduate entry program. But the other one that's 4 years is for people who've already done a degree. So something to keep in mind as well, if it doesn't work out, you can always do that route, but just in case you see the 4-year one and you're wondering why you can't apply, you just have to have done a degree for that. So it's a separate thing altogether. As we mentioned, first year, it's the basic sciences. It's really interesting and really good, but I think the most important part about it is about getting to know your class and kind of, being able to really enjoy yourself. There's social events every week. And one of the things I will say about medicine, particularly in UCD, that I've noticed very anecdotally compared to friends is that, we all know each other really, really well, and we have a really good community here. It can be difficult in other large courses to get to know your classmates, but here it just doesn't seem to be an issue. Then years 2 and 4, as Professor Donnelly mentioned, you learn lectures like this, you have small group tutorials for certain subjects, and then you've got the anatomy labs as well. And the anatomy labs are a really, really fantastic thing to have. And we've got a great facility here where you dissect real human donated bodies, which we very kindly have. It's the best way to learn anatomy, and is a great resource. And then years 5 and 6, you do the bit that you actually signed up for, which is the medicine, the surgery, the the actual clinical bit, the doctoring, if you will. And then following all that, hopefully you make it through and you're a lovely doctor. The day-to-day kind of running of being a medical student. So for the first 3.5 years, as we mentioned, you're here. It's really not like as bad as they say it is. And, the people who do say it's bad, I know there's a number of TikTok influencers from UCD Medicine who you may or may not be aware of. Those students, as far as I'm aware, are in the graduate entry program. So they're very stressful days, and putting up videos of them spending 8-9 hours in the library, that's not representative of the undergraduate degree. It may be representative of the graduate degree. We've yet to really see if that's true, but it's certainly not what we have here for this. And then the clinical bit is where it kind of is a bit more stereotypical, because you are in hospital every day and from 7 o'clock till maybe 6 or 7, and then you have to study. So, but you have 3.5 years to get used to it all. I just thought I'd put this up. This was my timetable literally from my first semester in first year. And as you can see, like, there's lots of space to do things. And that classic Friday morning lecture that nobody shows up to because there's nothing else on for the rest of the day. So, it's, I'm not advocating for it, but that's what happens. I know this was also mentioned by Professor Donnelly, but it is something that is unique to UCD and really, really good. So the elective modules are essentially, aside from the medicine core modules that you're doing for your medical degree, you can pick one choice from outside of that degree or within the degree, if that makes sense. There are medicine electives for maybe people who aren't studying medicine and want to do an elective that's medicine. You can do them as well. Or you can do law, psychology, statistics, languages, humanities, whatever. Like languages, loads of my friends did language ones, which are really useful if you kind of have an interest in that, or you want to go and practice in a different country. And another thing that is really valuable, and something that I didn't take advantage of, but I definitely wish I did now, is the structured electives here. So you can pick electives from wherever you want. You can do a law one, a humanities, a language, whatever. Or you can do a structured elective where you basically plan the electives you're kind of going to do when you're in first year. And then at the end of the degree, when all is said and done, you have your major, which is medicine, but you also have a minor in one of these specialties or one of these subjects. And there's a great website that has them all on it. So, you can do a language one, and then you get a little minor in a language, which I'm sure is probably quite useful. I don't know because I didn't do it, but it sounds good. And then the statistics and the humanities and whatever else, or law. Then something that people talk about as well in medicine is clinical electives, and they're kind of a completely different thing. So the word elective is the same, but they're totally different. And clinical electives is something that you do no matter where you study. But I'll talk about the opportunities that we have here in UCD. And clinical electives are effectively an opportunity to go and practice something that you maybe didn't get to do in medical school, or something that you that you really did get to do and you really enjoyed and you want to get more experience in, to kind of figure out what you want to specialize in. So this is just what I did as an example. I went to Edinburgh in the summer just gone, and I did pancreas and liver surgery over there for 3 weeks. It was a great experience, really, really like good fun, and got to go away. The Fringe Festival was on, it was good crack. And then in January, Professor Donnelly mentioned we get 6 weeks off in January to complete all of our electives if you want. Now I decided to split them between the summer and the January. Which you can do as well. So I'm going to Australia for 6 weeks, and I'm doing 3 weeks of urology in Melbourne. So it's just kind of, you can really mix and match, and you can kind of get to, experience lots of different things wherever you want in the world. You can, of course, do them here, but it tends to be a bit more fun if you get to go away. So those 2 electives I organize myself, but UCD has some really, really good affiliations, and I have loads of friends who went on ones with UCD with scholarships as well. So you can see the U21 group, which UCD is a part of. You've got the University of Auckland in New Zealand, you've got Edinburgh, you've got Fudan, which is in China, Glasgow, Hong Kong, Korea, London, Sweden, I think, Monterey, which is in Mexico, Chile, Queensland in Australia. So there's loads of those options you can go to. Or you can do some of the other ones that they have in America, for example, UCLA in Los Angeles with a €2,000 scholarship last summer, Kansas with a €2,000 scholarship. So they're paid for, and they're available to you to apply for. Another opportunity, just to mention, is something that I'm actually doing in March. So for the final year of my degree, between the months of January, February, and March, I'll be in the country for 2 weeks because there's no big final exams. It's not, very stressful like other universities. And something that UCD has is this sub-internship in the University of Pennsylvania, which I haven't done yet, but it sounds like it's going to be fun, and it's all paid for as well by UCD, which is great. Another thing, this is just me and my research poster when Professor Donnelly mentioned it. So it's something you can do is research here, and there's the great SSRA program, which matches you with one of the investigators either in the Conway Institute here, which is biomedical science, if you're interested in kind of lab-based basic science research, or indeed clinical research. So I know you actually showed Professor Donnelly as well the pictures of Professor Cahill's work. So I actually worked on some of that, and that's what this poster is from. So I was actually in the operating theatre doing the research there and then in the matter. So it's really, really good to get involved in that if it interests you, or if not, you don't have to, but it's there if you want it. You can also find your own, and they allow you to do that. So if you've got an interest in something that isn't offered here, which is probably highly unlikely, you can present that to the people who organize it, and they'll attach you to the program and go through all the thing, and then you can enter the competition and all the rest. And there are also some abroad with scholarships provided as well, which are worth looking into. So that's all the unimportant stuff. Moving on to the actual important stuff, the medical society and the fun stuff that we do. So Professor Donnelly mentioned this. We won the Society of the Year for 3 out of the last 5 years on campus. So that's against all the other all the other societies. And these are the kind of events that they organize. So you've got Med Ball, which is it has to be the largest student ball in Ireland. There's over 900 people go every year. Med Gala, which is another ball. Med Day, our charity fundraiser. This is my class at our last Med Ball, which was there in October. And then every year there's a ski trip as well, which is great fun. There's kind of casual sports. If you're not interested in getting involved in like the more competitive sports on campus, we organize casual sporting events so people can get involved in that, as well as the charity events that were mentioned. And then class trips every year. That's not strictly through MedSoc, but every year we used to go on a class trip. I didn't go on the one in Prague, that's why I don't have a picture of that, but it happened. And then COVID happened, and then we were stuck in hospitals, but up until that point, it was great. Then these are all the other societies. You can, there's literally anything and everything, you name it, it's there. There's loads of them. And if there isn't one that interests you, you can set up your own. So, you can't really go wrong. The campus facilities, we've got more lakes than any other university in Dublin, so that's got to be a big plus, as well as our library here, which is definitely the nicest library on campus, and we do deserve it, in fairness, as well as the gym, which you can use, and whatever else. You probably are familiar with the campus. Sports clubs, I mentioned. I wasn't particularly involved in sports, but there's anything and everything, and as well as all the WorldCats facilities, which are here on campus. And then this is something that I just wanted to mention, some unique things about UCD that you might not think of. I wouldn't have thought of these when I was at your stage. So the clinical rotation order here in UCD is unique in comparison to other colleges, in the sense that we do our medicine and surgery first. This won't make any sense to you, but just trust me when I tell you it's better. Because when it comes to it at the end of the day, you never have a high stakes exam. Every exams that you do is chunks. So you do your specialty followed by the exam. Whereas in other universities, as I understand it, you'll do all your placements and then you'll sit all the exams together at the end, which amounts to enormous amounts of stress and high stakes exams. We just don't have that here. It's great. So you can have, you can get it all banked up as you go along. The other thing, as I mentioned, the elective modules, which is those structured electives, the campus here, the variety of societies, and then just the hospitals, which I know Professor Donnelly mentioned, but the Mater, which is the National Heart and Lung Transplant Centre, which means that they don't do them anywhere else. So if you're interested in that, it would be worth to associate yourself there, or Vincent's, where they do liver transplants, as well as all these other interesting things. Yeah, just some tips, because people always ask about tips. Is just when it comes to sixth year and you're doing your 6 year stuff, mocks tend to be around February when the HPAT is, and it's much more important to focus on the HPAT at that time. If you're a diligent student and you're working your way through the years, 5th and 6th year, the mocks aren't really important. You have time. The most important thing at that time is the HPAT. But then in the grand scheme of things, your leaving cert is far more important than the HPAT. And that's not a contradiction. What I mean by that is you know, you have to be, if anyone's in 5th year, you know, start working now. And, you know, if you're in 6th year, you know, don't spend the first half of the year dilly-dallying. You need to be spending, you know, the chunk of your time in your leaving cert, because your leaving cert lasts forever. The HPAT's only 1 year. So if you don't get the HPAT, you can always repeat it and you'll have your leaving cert there forever. Whereas if you don't get the leaving cert, you have to repeat them both, and it's you know, it's more work. So just make sure that you kind of look at it like that. As I mentioned, the other routes is the graduate entry program you can do. And you can do that after doing any degree. So you don't have to do like a biomedical science degree. You just have to get a 2-1 in it, as far as I'm aware. And then you sit another entrance exam, which I won't talk about, but you know, worth looking at that as well. And then something I wanted to mention, I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know what it's like, but one thing I would say from, you know, I love medicine, but some of my friends who kind of went into it just because they could, or just because their parents thought they should or made them do it, are not happy. And I would highly recommend that you only do it if you want to do it. Don't do it because anyone else wants you to do it or because you think you should do it. Only do it if you want to do it. So in summary, as we mentioned, 6 years here, there's loads of time for extra stuff. You can do your elective modules and anything and everything here. You've got your clinical electives at home or abroad. You've got the research, you've got the faculty, the community, the campus facilities, the sports clubs. And for me personally, I mean, I have no regrets coming here. I loved it. I've loved every minute. I'm sad I have to leave in a few months, but it's been great. And I think we can move on to any questions you might have.